Okay, I'm so fucking hyped right now, so sorry if this review is a little all over the place. I'm going to quickly cover balance, cosmetics and stuff and get straight into Arthur, because I know that's what you all came for and I want to keep this fairly short and sweet. So skins are skins, they're actually pretty cool, especially Cosmic Conqueror Hercules. You all know I love Hercules, so having that is pretty cool because they're like my favourite kind of line of skins, those galaxy ones. Other skins I'm not particularly too interested in, maybe the Black Guardian Athena, that is pretty nice actually, and then Arthur recolors and golden skins. New cosmetics, fantasy point store stuff, awesome chest stuff. Pause the video if you want to read this because I can't be bothered. Bug fixes, also can't be bothered. Pause if you want to read. So Arachne is getting a change to her ultimate where like you will create the web from her 3 in an area where you land from the ultimate. It's not going to stack the slow, but it'll essentially give you like a larger area to slow people over and chase them down, like kind of to make you use the ult more of an engage than just like running away all the time, which I think is a good change. Hell just got a lot of different buffs on her passive. I fucking hate when Hell's meta, but fine, buff Hell if you want. Susano changes to pre-fire delays so that Typhoon just feels a lot better to use. It's probably not going to do too much for him in terms of viability, it'll just make him feel better. Thor's Tectonic Rift, mana cost reduction is good. I think it was pretty high at 75 from like Thor being an older god and just having high mana costs. Decreasing the cooldown probably won't help with his early game, which I think is really where Thor's kind of weak right now, but it should help for the late game especially because you can double tap someone every 15 seconds instead of every 17, which is nice. Jing Shen buffs are actually pretty crazy. I think they might have overdone it a little bit here. I think Jing's actually going to be meta in like solo and duo right now, which is pretty crazy. So instead of it being like 1 second up to 4 seconds on the duration of the attack speed debuff from Furious Roar, it's 4 seconds at all ranks. They've also boosted the percentage damage done from basic attacks decrease from 20 up to 30 at rank 1, so like boxing and duo lane at level 1 or something like that, you're going to be reducing enemy ADC basic attacks by 30% for 4 seconds, which is actually pretty crazy. Even in solo lane that can be pretty relevant. And they've also changed the damage numbers around a little bit to fit with like the new 4 seconds at all ranks, but it's not really going to change too much. And the ultimate, if you cleanse the ultimate, you'll now still take the damage if you're in the radius from him spinning, which obviously kind of makes sense because he's still spinning a blade in your face. It makes sense you will still take damage. And also it gains 25% bonus movement speed, so unless you're jumping, you're probably not escaping this ability anymore, which is pretty fun. Alright, hope that was quick enough for you. Let's move on to Arthur, let's go. So King Arthur is easily the most ambitious god we've seen in Smite to date. More so even than the Morrigan, I think, but hopefully with less of the bugs. And I swear, if you comment, but he's not a god, I will actually rate you. I don't give a fuck if he's a god or not. He looks like the coolest character we've had in a long ass time and he's a warrior. I fucking love it. So before we go over everything he has, Arthur's basic abilities work in like combos of sorts. Essentially you can cast one of his 3 regular abilities and you can then cast one of his 3 combo variant abilities, which puts you back into normal stance, and then you have to cast another basic ability to go back into combo stance and so on. He's very focused on movement and fluid use of abilities. Alright, so on to the passive. So Arthur's passive is a lot of different things. This basically details the actual passive and some other bonus effects that he has. So his actual passive is a stacking buff where Arthur hits enemy gods with his abilities and stacks up a passive up to 4 times. The stacks each provide 1.5% mitigation and 25% bonus energy gain, so 6% mitigation and double energy gain at max stacks. Energy is tied to his ultimate, by the way, which has 2 different forms depending on the energy level you're at when you cast it. A few other notes, his abilities are also locked to instant cast because of the way he plays, and his auto attacks are locked at normal speed. Buying attack speed won't increase his attack speed, but it will instead increase your energy gain rate by 1/3 of the attack speed value, effectively allowing you to ult more often. So think of attack speed as kind of like ultimate cooldown reduction. It's just a conversion very similar to Cuchulain's mana to health conversion, and also Arthur's auto attacks are always cleave and hit multiple targets. Alright, so onto his regular abilities. So as I mentioned, all 3 of his basic abilities have 2 different forms depending on whether he's in basic or combo stance. So his one in standard stance is overhead slash, in combo stance it's hamstring. So in standard stance, King Arthur deals a devastating overhead blow in melee range that creates a slashing attack that travels forwards as a projectile. Enemies hit in melee range take bonus damage as well. And in combo stance, Arthur swipes low in a cone, crippling and damaging all enemies that he hits. So they said they were trying to keep Arthur's damage numbers pretty low because he's got so many abilities to use at his disposal in sort of any order he wants to use them, but the damage on this seems pretty damn high, like in both forms, like 280 and 300 base, depending on if you're using standard or combo, and 60% scaling in both stances is actually pretty damn high for a warrior. The cripple doesn't seem like anything major. I think it's more meant to be there as like you will cripple someone and then follow it up with like a knock-up or your ultimate, like essentially to stop people jumping away from the rest of your combos. I feel like that's how that will be used. And the overhead slash can be used as sort of a ranged projectile to like finish someone off or just poke them from range, but if you can get into melee range, it is going to do that bonus damage, which is really nice. Alright, onto his second ability, which is either Battle Stomp in normal stance or Uppercut in combo stance. In standard, King Arthur stomps the ground with heavy force, causing enemies around him to take damage and become slowed. In combo stance, King Arthur charges forward, stopping at the first god hit, and at the end of the charge, King Arthur unleashes an uppercut, knocking all enemies into the air and away from him. So the damage numbers on this seem much more in line. In combo stance 230 is reasonable, and in non-combo stance 140 is pretty bad, but that's because I think this is meant to be sort of more of a CC focused ability, less focused on the damage, and this is more of like setup for your other abilities with like slowing people so you can hit your other stuff, uppercutting them away, stuff like that. Some of the animations for this are really good though, especially on the uppercut, like you charge forward, knock enemies into the air, and you can hit multiple people with it as well if they're grouped up, which is really fucking cool. Onto his 3, Twin Cleave or Bladestorm. So in standard stance, King Arthur unleashes 2 cleave attacks in a circle around him while charging forward. Enemies hit by the cleave take damage and have their protections reduced. And in combo stance, King Arthur swings Excalibur around him multiple times, charging forward and damaging enemies 5 times before winding up a final strike that deals more damage. King Arthur is also immune to knockups for the duration of the ability. So once again, the damage numbers are pretty high on this, given he's supposed to be a warrior with a little bit less damage because of how many abilities he has. That 135 plus 30% scaling is doubly applied if you can hit both cleaves, so it's actually 270 plus 60% if you can hit both, plus 14% protection shred, which seems really good. And then the 3 in combo stance just seems like an absolute shredder, especially if you can like combine it off of the 3 in regular stance, shredding 14% of their protections, then hitting them with the 3 in combo. That spin damage alone, multiplied by 5, that's 450 plus 75% scaling. That's pretty ridiculous. And then you get the final hit, which does another 230 plus 15%. That's getting into pretty ridiculous territories, especially in terms of base damage. Like, I feel like you can probably just build this guy full tank and shred people, but we'll see what he's like on PCS. Oh, and I forgot to mention quickly, all 3 of these basic abilities, whether they're in basic or combo stance, will give him energy gain towards using his ultimate, so let's move on to that. So his ultimate is either Sundering Strike or Excalibur's Wrath, depending on your current energy level. If you have more than 35 energy but less than 80, King Arthur winds up a massive jab, charging forward slightly before striking. Enemies hit by the jab are stunned. And if you have more than 80 energy, King Arthur charges forward with Excalibur drawn. If King Arthur hits an enemy god, he launches them into the air and unleashes a barrage of attacks, after which he launches them back to the ground, dealing damage to his target and also any enemies below them. So once again, the damage numbers on this are pretty good. I mean, on the 35 energy ultimate is pretty low, but that's because it's only 35 energy. From what I've seen, it's relatively easy to build up 35 in a fight, so you can pretty easily get that ultimate off for the stun and the little bit of damage that it gives. The stun's also pretty powerful as well, because like the actual area that you can stun people in, it's not just like a dash at someone and stun them, it's a dash and then an enormous line in front of you where you can stun people, so it actually seems really powerful. And then the 80 energy ultimate is just ridiculous. It's like a mini Najjar ultimate, but even better, I think. It does damage per each hit and landing damage, which already on their own is a ridiculous amount of damage for a warrior to have. That's what, 660 and 110% scaling or something like that, just from the damage alone. And then you also do 1.5% of the target's max health, and 5 up to 13% of their max health on landing, which I'm not entirely sure if they actually meant to say this or not, but Pon on the stream said it was true damage. So you're doing percent max health true damage on top of all those base and scaling values, which just seems absolutely ridiculous. But 80 energy is relatively hard to get, but I don't know, this just seems really powerful. But yeah, overall I'm super hyped for this guy. Like, he seems like the most ambitious release we've had in a long time, probably the coolest release we've ever had, and he's a warrior, which my favourite class, come on. So let me know your guys' feelings on this guy. If you really don't like playing warriors, you're probably going to have a bad day, because I think this guy's going to be mad OP, at least in PTS. But if you do like warriors, then you're going to have an absolute field day. I'm going to get on PTS as soon as I can, and I'll hopefully try and get out some kind of gameplay for you, probably tomorrow, because when the PTS actually drops in the UK, it's going to be really late at night, so I probably won't be able to play and edit a video for, like, publishing that night, so probably tomorrow I'll be able to post a video of some actual Arthur gameplay. Whether that's just me commentating solo over some footage, or it's like me playing with friends, I'm not sure. I'll see if I can get some people to play PTS with me, but I can't guarantee that. But yeah, other than that, let me know how you guys feel about this release, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out, you nerds.